Good evening and welcome to the Cyber Claus Cafe. We'll start in just a minute.
Or something, wave at us. So, or raise your hand to share. And we're recording this session, I hope, and Deanna will post it on YouTube as soon as she's able. So as soon as possible. So good evening and welcome to Cyber Claus Cafe. We're honored that you're spending time with us tonight. And I'm Judy Broderick, in case you didn't know, and that's Deanna on my screen down in the corner. Wave at us, Deanna. There we go. And okay, so we have closed captioning going. That's good. All right, and we're also here with the spirit of Santa Nana. We are Santa Nana's Holiday University, a different and unexpected point of view for the holiday education. We call ourselves SNHU. And it is the vision of Lucky Royce, who developed her character as Santa Nana, that's Santa Claus's sister. And Nana saw a gap in the education, and not only for the ladies, but also from a lady's point of view, where it included the Santas. As an independent Mrs. Claus, or an independent Claus, I should say, she was not a Mrs. Claus, I correct myself. She designed a curriculum to help the community, the Clauses, find the opportunities for ladies so they might find their niche in the Christmas community, both as partners or as solo Mrs. Clauses and performers. Nana designed the program for all Christmas performers, and we've had Mrs. Clauses, we've had elves, Santas, supporters, and even a Grinch attend our schools. We lost Lucky in 2016, and we carry forward with her vision and legacy. So we can find out more about, and if you want to, you can find out more about Lucky on at the schoolofsantanana.com. And there's a bio of her on the webpage there. Okay, first we're going to, Deanna, I'm going to turn it over to you where you can share your screen, and we're going to start with a poll to ask a few questions.
Yes. So welcome, everybody. I just wanted to also say thank you for joining us tonight. We are very eager to hear your perspective about your past season and how we can use it to make next season even better. So I looked forward to this last year, and I look forward to it again because your nuggets and pearls of wisdom are just invaluable. So we're going to start with a poll, and the first question you should be able to see here is, what format of visits did you have? Did you have answer all? If you had in-person, virtual, or any recorded visits? You should be able to see that. Yep. And then the second question is the types of visits that you had, whether they were family, corporate parades, shopping center, the whole list goes on, drive-by, and the experience events. That's something new for some of us this year.
What do you mean by experience events?
Things like, for example, at the one that I did, North Pole Experience up in Flagstaff, Ellen and Nina both did Enchant, where families go to a place, and it's not just, it's more than a visit with Santa or a visit with Mrs. Claus. It's a whole experience. The one that I did was at the Princess here in Scottsdale, where families would come to a resort setting and pay a boatload of money for going through Elf Academy and singing with Mrs. Claus and taking selfies along the way, and then ending with a visit with Santa and photos with Santa. So experience events are more of a structured event that is hosted by someone other than us going out and arranging a visit. Ellen and Nina, does that explain it? Or what would you add to that?
Yeah, I didn't see that on my survey, so I submitted it before I
Oh.
saw that part.
Oh, okay, great.
And I also marked experience for doing a Santa experience with a photographer where they
Yes.
spend so much time with Mrs. Claus and they go.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Did that answer your question about what an experience event is?
Yes, yes, it
Great.
did. Thank you.
Great. Yeah, some of the like the North Pole experience, they take you on a shuttle and you're magically transported from where you are to the North Pole and get to do all these very structured, time-based, scripted activities with Santa, Mrs. Claus, the elves, and so on. Okay, I'll give you just a couple more seconds and then we'll end this poll and then I'll share the results. Or do you see? You might see the results as they go by. I see what I see. What are you guys doing? What do you see?
I see the results.
Okay, great. So let's talk first about what format of visits. Most of you did the in-person events. Curious about those who still did virtual visits. Obviously fewer than we had last year or the year before. I'm curious, the virtual visit that you did, was that because of concern of social distancing and still the remnants of COVID, or was that just the nature of where people were? I'm not sure who answered virtual, but if you could unmute yourself and share.
We did a few,
Mhm.
but it was really, we did a couple for friends and family that were far away and who wanted us to visit with their kids. We also did an afternoon of sessions for a local real estate agent that we've been
Mhm.
working with for several years now. And this year we did part virtual visits for those of her clients who still wanted to do virtual visits. And then we also did an in-office appearance for them. But
Oh,
it was
nice.
not near what we've done in the past.
Right.
Our website with the option for virtual visits pulled in nothing.
Okay, cool. So the second part of the question is the types of visits. And it looks like, again, the majority, actually, we have 8, the majority being charity and pro bono visits. And usually they're more between the in-person, so the family and corporate parties are still way up there. So I think we're going to come back. I know that Nina and Ellen have some insights about the experience events, and so do I. But there's a question we're going to Judy's going to ask in a couple of minutes about the experience event. So who was the fourth person? I know that Nina and Ellen added that. 2 other folks did experience events. So we're going to be curious to get your input on how that went. Okay.
Okay. Very,
So I have one other.
so in
one-
about 3 to, okay, sorry.
No, that's
Go ahead.
okay. We're gonna ask one other question. Let me
Oh, okay,
launch
sorry.
this poll. That's okay. So the first part of this question is about your clause partnerships. We asked this question last year as well, is about the events that you did, from the ladies. Did you do more solo events as Mrs. Claus or as an elf, or more with Santa than you did by yourself, only solo, or only with Santa? Because some of the ladies do both solo and partner events. The second part of the question is, do you work with one Santa or multiple Santas? Okay, and for
I
those
don't
of
think it's
you,
recording my stuff.
and as you're answering that, the ones who work with multiple Santas, let's get a quick insight from your point of view about the dynamics of working with different Santas and how that works, navigating through different personalities and different expectations. How did that work for you?
I found that it was really interesting. I do 90% with my Santa Roger, but occasionally I will go out with other Santas. And it's fun to see how different Santas interact with the kids, with the venue, whatever. And I pick up little hints from what other Santas do that I'd never thought of before. So it's been fun. But like I say, most of my time I'm with my own Santa.
Yes. Good. Hope to see you on Saturday, Judy and Roger.
I've noticed
Mhm.
the
Go ahead.
biggest Santas who go for additional training as opposed to Santas who just put on the suit and do not go for any additional training. There's a huge difference. And I really appreciate those who do the continuing education units of the Claus universe.
You know, I have to say, and this is from my own point of view, I worked with 6 different Santas this season. One of them I had never worked with before. The others I have worked off and on, so we've kind of developed that relationship and we know each other a bit. But this new Santa, never heard of him before, never worked with him before. And I have to tell you, it was like he had no idea what to do with me. He had not one clue. He was so used to working solo. He had no idea what to do with a partner. We had no chance to talk ahead of time. He was also 40 minutes late for the event. And so it was, I felt the disconnect. I'm hoping that the children and the families did not, but yeah, the importance and the differences in working with multiple Santas really shows the importance of getting together ahead of time, talking through what you're going to do, how you're going to act with each other, what you're going to call each other if you have pet names, what activities you're going to do, how you're going to bounce off each other, your part in photos even, and in the activities. It was a clear difference when you work with a
Ellen.
totally new Santa.
Ellen, you have your hand up.
I do.
Mhm.
I worked with 2 Santas on everything except the corporate, the experience event, and there were 4. And on the first day of rehearsals, one of the Santas said to, there were 3 of us at the 3 Mrs. Clauses for this event, and we introduced ourselves to this new Santa, and he looked at us and he went, "Well, what are you, line monitors or what?" And we're like, oh goodness. Turns out he had been hired through this year. Enchant Christmas hired through a Santa hiring agency, and 2 of the 4 were god awful. One was not too bad, and one was a really good Santa, but he lives locally and we'd had him before. Privately, it's very different because one of the Santas that I work with individually away from Enchant is very casual and friendly and open, and the other one is very oh I'm Santa, and it's interesting to adapt to that, because while in my perspective, Mrs. Claus is equal to Santa, he is still the draw for the most part. And so I kind of find myself needing to adapt, and I adapt both my look, my hair, my attitude, to how the Santa is performing so that we have some continuity between us. So that's just me. So thank you. I'm mute again.
Okay, awesome. So Judy, if you want to
Okay,
take
Carol
it back,
has got her hand
Carol,
up a
yep,
minute.
go for it. I'm gonna,
Ellen was talking about continuity. That's the one thing with working with different Santas. I try to find out what they will be wearing, what color, so that Mrs. Claus doesn't clash that if they're in a deep burgundy, I try to avoid the bright red. So just so that we look like a couple and that we belong together.
I have a question that, because right now I'm hearing everything is the woman is making the effort to make sure that we have continuity. Have any of you ever had a Santa reach out to you and say, hey, how do you want to do this or anything like this? I'm just curious because it's like, oh, wow. The women are
Santa
still
land.
doing all the work. Sorry, guys, I'm just,
Is very good that way.
who is?
Giving me an idea of what the venue type is, what the people attending will be wearing, just letting me in on all of that. Not just simply about what he is wearing, but rather what the whole atmosphere of the event will be before I get there, before I
Who
even
is-
leave the house.
Who is that?
Santa Lance, right there.
Okay. I'm not surprised. So I don't mean any offense about the other gentleman in the room here, but I just was, I'm hearing this, so I was kind of curious as to, okay. Anyhow, I don't want to get myself in trouble here. But so, yeah, I had an interesting review of people who were talking about how much they like Bill and me together. And they said they bicker like an old married couple. And I'm going, when did we bicker? But it's like, okay, I guess we better watch what we say to each other. But it's like, I must have corrected him or something. I don't know. It's like a little worrisome. But what worked well for you and what obstacle did you have to overcome? And were you unhappy with any event in this year? No comments.
Well,
Okay.
Go ahead, Johnma. Go ahead, Johnma.
Hey, hold on, let me unmute. Good
Yep.
evening. I don't usually work with a Santa, but a family wanted an interracial couple, and that was first for me. And I think that's going to be the beginning of many. And this family was in Chicago, and all I could think about, I don't want to get stuck in the snow, and that was my only request.
So you went all the way from Nashville to Chicago?
Yeah, so it was very it was absolutely beautiful. I mean, the kids, everybody. So it's a huge family, and that's what they wanted. And the Santa reached out to me. The family didn't, but I was like, oh, this is interesting. So let's coordinate with grandmother who was actually running the show. And so after we connected, we brought in a lot of ideas, and it was really a nice event. The first, but like I said, I think it's going to happen again and again because the family was really happy with the outcome, and we had a whole day. I did a day rate plus travel, so it was great.
In case you
I'm glad to
didn't
hear
know,
that you talked about, I'm glad, Johnma, that you talked about travel, because it's some of the conversations that we've had off and on as the season got closer and closer, especially with the price of gas that was going up, how many people were adjusting their rates to add travel or adjust for additional travel or narrow their radius of before they started charging for travel. So that's a question. Did anyone else?
yes, we have a
make-
hand up right here and I can't see the name right offhand. Santa behind her.
Roger, yeah, what I did this year, I just stuck to the East Valley. 'Cause in the past, I live in Chandler and I've gone all the way out to near Luke Air Force Base and clear up Paradise Valley. So this year I just stuck to east around Chandler, and I had plenty of work. I didn't have a bit of trouble filling my schedule.
That's great to hear. Yeah, I mean, and from the East Valley to Luke Air Force Base, he's probably talking 70 miles one way.
in the past.
Yeah, Bill and I go 90 miles one way all the time. Because we live in Wisconsin and we do Chicago. So we started adding travel, not very much, but we have added some on.
Well,
And
I
this
can,
year we have to add another expense. We were evidently we thought we were following the flow of traffic, but I just in the mail 2 days ago got 2 traffic tickets taken by the automatic cameras that said we were going 10 miles an hour over the speed limit in Chicago.
Hmm.
That's a new expense.
Yeah.
I hadn't planned on having to spend. So
So
Well,
other obstacles to Judy's question, other obstacles that you encountered and how you graciously handled them?
I'm not sure about an obstacle, but this was our first year doing paid Santa and Mrs. Claus. Oh, we've always volunteered before. And we did 2 parades or tree lightings. And the first one went without a hitch. They were organized, everything went wonderful. And we got asked back for next year. The second one we went to, and it was so disorganized that when we got out there, we had to readjust where the lines were going. Luckily, we always have 2 elves with us. And I don't know, she talked about having us back next year, but I have to figure out how to talk with her about having more organization, or even though we told her ahead of time that Santa does not end the line, you have to end it. They never did. It was everything. We were supposed to come out to music and she was going to let us know when to come out. She never did. You know, so it's like she looked like she was the only person there working.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm not sure how to let her know that it was how disorganized it was.
So Nancy, one of the pieces of advice, and this is something that I have come to do every year, and that's at the end of event, I have a follow-up conversation, whether it's an email or on the phone or even in person, because the first thing I want is feedback from them about how we did or how I did so that it can improve, and also to provide feedback in the spirit of constructive criticism or constructive feedback, so that the event can be better for their guests. And it's all about improving the guest experience. And so that opens the door to say, you know, it would be helpful if you had someone, you know, nothing as a critique, but as an observation, you know, to have someone manage the line, to give you the cues on when you needed to speed up or if the line was getting short. You know, that kind of, you know, suggestions and advice is going to be much better received, you know, by them. So try, and if you haven't done that yet, have an opportunity to have some shared feedback about, for both you and Santa, as well as what you could give to them.
I would also just ask, is it feasible for you to assign me a liaison that can be just for us, so that, because you are obviously a very busy person and you had more, you know, more to do than a stump full of ants. And is there some way you can assign us a person that can be between you and us so that we have better communication going and it runs smoother? I'm sure that you would like that also, blah, blah, blah type of thing, and ask her if she can provide you with one. We have 2 people with their hands raised, Lance and then Ellen.
Thank you. So my biggest frustration, and it's a reoccurring frustration.
Oh,
is the
Lance,
home
can
visit
you raise your volume or get closer to the
Sure.
microphone? Could just hardly hear you.
No problem. Is that any better?
A little better.
Back to me. I will change my settings. Come back to me.
Okay, should we have, do you need a minute?
Come back to him.
Okay, let's go to Ellen and we'll come back to Lance as soon as he gets his settings. Okay, Ellen, go ahead.
Yeah, one of the Santas and I did a 2-day corporate grand opening at a new store here in the area. And the first day, when they had us outside the store in this giant chair, and they had lots of activities going on in the parking lot and had advertised it for the public to come and participate in the activities and win prizes and visit with Santa and Mrs. Claus. It was fine. It was lovely. We had a good time. The next day, the temperature dropped to about 50 degrees and it rained. And it rained hard and the wind was blowing. And we said, we're not doing what we did yesterday. They said, well, we'll find a canopy. So they put up they said, can't we go into the store? No. They put up a canopy. The wind was blowing sideways. We were still wet. It was cold. They moved the canopy to under an overhang because they really wanted us outside. And at lunchtime, we said to them, we're really sorry. We're not going to get sick. When we come back from lunch, if you haven't moved us inside, we're going to have to leave. And when we came back from lunch, they had found a way to move us inside. So, you know, we just were like, they don't pay us enough. I mean, it was good pay, but it wasn't good enough for a hospital bill.
Right,
So,
for pneumonia.
So that's what we did. We'll work with you here, but you've got to make this okay.
Mhm.
And one of the nice things was a little girl had come apparently from a soccer game. And she said to me, Mrs. Claus, are you cold? I said, I'm a little bit chilly. I'm down here in Florida. I'm not, you know, I've lost my North Pole blood. And she said, well, here, take these, and gave me a pair of hand warmers that they'd given them at the soccer game.
Aw, what a
That was
sweetheart.
just really sweet. Yeah. So that was our difficult one. My difficult one this year, separate from Enchant. That's a whole nother issue. But from a non-corporate thing,
Mhm.
that was the bad one. So
I think it's nice that you had a united front and you were both on that
yeah.
together. I think-
We have worked together multiple times and we tend to think alike in many ways. And this is just one of them. He's my I'm Santa, you know, we're so glad you're here, come on, you know, he's that Santa. And so it worked out well.
Okay, Lance,
Sound check. Can you hear me now?
Perfect.
a little bit better, yes.
Thank you. My reoccurring frustration is the family visits that seem to think that you can have a Santa visit concurrently with an adult alcohol party. And I'm not sure how to put it in my contract to tell people that doesn't work.
Has anyone else had that experience? I mean, Lance, did they put you, like, you go over here, or it's all going on at the same time?
Normally, it's an open house layout. So I'm in the living room, they're in the kitchen, but there's no wall or anything between us. So it's just very noisy. The children can't hear me.
Yeah.
I end up losing my voice.
Is that, I wonder, because I have, there's actually a family party that's exactly the same way. The adults are in the kitchen, they're eating, they're drinking. We're in one room next to it trying to have a conversation with the children. So I don't know if
Just a
that's
raise of hands, how many of you have had to deal with the same thing? Yeah, I thought most of us have, yeah.
Yeah. 'Cause
Any
I'm-
advice?
Yeah, Roger.
Yeah, well, I've got sort of one like that, and I just saw what the situation was. So the very, very first thing I did is I said, okay, we're all gonna do it. I call it the reindeer pokey. And I just said, hey, all you guys, come on, you're gonna do this, put your beer down, come on, this is Santa Claus, come on, don't disappoint the kids. And I got all the parents, I got them all to come out there. I said, we're gonna do this. I said, thank you. And I just said, you know, I've only got 2 ears and I can only hear 2 kids at a time. When I get 3 and 4 or 5 noises, I just really can't hear you. So, hey, have a good time. But hey, this is Santa Claus and the kids want to have a good visit. And I basically just tell very, very politely, and with the Santa Claus, ho, 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 I tell them to be quiet. And it's worked every time. But that's just my personality and I can do that.
I know we always request that they please put their alcoholic drinks aside. We won't take pictures with them holding a drink. And it's just that it's not acceptable. At least not in
That's-
America.
Did that help, Lance?
Well, I would say it would, except I've done a visit where it was a return visit and the same thing happened. And I think I'm just going to have to decline next year because I don't know how to get that into people's head that that's not a good environment for the children to be able to have a visit.
Is there an opportunity to move the children to a more quiet area?
Not from where the situations I was in.
Okay, yeah, that's a tough one. And then, I mean, the only other thing, and it's only short-lived, just kind of like what Roger is doing is to involve the adults. We were doing, an activity, singing and the pantomiming, the 12 Days of Christmas, if you've done that before. And then we encourage the adults to get involved, and we asked the hosts to help us, point and target to some of the adults who would be more open to participating. And so that was great for the time that they were there, but it was in a different environment as well. It was a big house and they had lots of rooms to go. But yeah, that's a tough one. Hi, Cynthia.
I'm sorry, I don't know how long you were in the waiting room. I was like, oh no, she's waiting. I apologize. I didn't see you.
It's okay. I wasn't in that long.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to the next question, Judy. And when we open it up for open forum, we can, just let everyone share their.
How did your marketing efforts change at all, or did they at all? And how did you use the social media this year? How many of you use social media? What other marketing efforts did you do? Did anyone do anything different this year or try something new?
We did a lot more.
Lance first and then Ellen.
Well, on the advice of Santa Ana's Holiday University, I decided to get myself an inexpensive website. So I opened a website this year for the first time.
And did it work for you?
It was very effective.
Good.
Fantastic, Lance. Good to hear that.
Thank you.
I'm
Ellen,
not sure. I guess this counts as marketing. I joined a local storytellers group. And I did a lot of networking with them. And some of you know that I'm involved with a local charity that rehabs gently used toys for needy children at Christmas. And so the storytelling group sponsored Mrs. Claus was representing the toy shop. And we had an all-day charity event for that. And the other thing I did was I just called the local television stations, because they always kind of do these, they have these, like, I don't know what they call them where you are, but they're always these local hour shows that talk about what's going on in the community kind of thing. And I just said, how would you feel about having Mrs. Claus on for a 5-minute segment? And I went. And I took one of my Santas with me and we had a good time. But it was interesting because later, through some other efforts, a lady called me and said, I have some toys for you to pick up. So I went to pick up the toys and she looked at me and she said, you look familiar. Do I know you? I said, no, I don't think we've ever met. And I said, and how did you hear about the toy shop? And she said, well, I was watching Great Day Live and Santa, and you're Mrs. Claus. So did those two things. And, while they were more charity focused, but they both worked. So.
Do you have any of your cohorts, friends, keep a supply of your business cards with them So your friends, your family, and their interactions and their conversations, striking up, some conversation, and Christmas comes up and did you know that? Did you know my spouse, my friend, my, aunt, my uncle, is a clause. Do any of you share your business cards with other people who can help share and increase your visibility that way?
Missy's saying yes.
Yes.
I actually took in, we did a flyer, and I actually took it into work and put it on the bulletin board at work. So
Great
other than
idea.
our website, which
Mm-hmm.
brought in a lot of business this year. I'm not
Mhm.
sure if we really got anything off of it or not, but it was a great conversation starter.
Fantastic. I love it. Janma.
I did a couple of things new this year, especially since it was kind of my first year back since my son's accident. Even though I had done some things pared down, it was like full circle, like here I am. And so one of the things I did was that we did Christmas Goes Pink, and that was for breast cancer survivors during the month of October, and that was absolutely amazing. And that was promoted throughout the Sarah Cannon, which is HCA hospital, and that was promoted throughout the cancer centers. And I literally worked nonstop. My suit was pink. It was just absolutely the best. It was fun. It was different. And they used those photos for their surprise Christmas photo for their family. So that was really nice. And then the other thing that I did that was different this year was I actually promoted on Nextdoor, which is an app, the neighborhood Facebook
Right.
type thing. But it went out to 72 neighborhoods. I didn't even know we had that many neighborhoods in my neighborhood because I only stay in one neighborhood, right? So, and then I pared it down to like the areas that the income brackets that I was shooting for. And that helped me promote my Christmas experiences. So for families that really wanted something extra, could experience things a little bit different, like the plane rides and things like that. And then lastly, I did my website, and I resisted that. I really did want to do a website. But now that I'm already booked for 2023 and got some bookings for 2024, I can kick myself that I didn't do it sooner.
That's great. Did anyone use any new props or anything this year that are stories that that we may not know about that you'd like to share with us and give kudos? And is there anything that you said, you know what, this is outdated, don't use it anymore?
One thing
Go
I
ahead,
did
Carol.
differently this year is my business cards were old and I didn't ever use them that much. I switched over to a Tap Talk card, which has a QWERTY code on it that takes whoever scans it with their phone directly to my Instagram and Facebook page. And they can see what I'm doing, then they can
Yes.
start following me. And that has worked out well. It's less for me to bother with, less for me to carry. It doesn't get outdated because I can update everything as I need to do it. So that was a good change for me.
Those things are becoming amazingly more and more popular, more and more expected. Those digital contact cards. Yes, we'll be talking a lot more about them. I have to share before I forget, and I want to move on to other people as well. But I didn't steal this idea, but I appropriated this fantastic idea about how from Santa Pat DeHaan, if you know him, Judy and Roger, I know you do. He does an amazing work with a lot of lower income schools. and everything he does is charity. And one of the characters he brings with him is a conductor from the Polar Express who helps test the kids whether or not they're on the naughty or nice list. And he uses this, okay? It is the
Oh.
naughty or nice meter, and you hold your hand underneath, and if the water rises to the top and bubbles, you're on the
How
nice
fun.
list. It's a hand boiler. It's $3.99 at Hobby Lobby. It was like, I got two. I got one purple, one in red. It's my new favorite. So the kids can hold this, and their eyes are just thrilled that they're on the nice list because now it's proof positive. Hobby Lobby. In the store, it was marked $5.99. Online, it was $3.99. So they honored the price.
Is that available all year long?
Yeah, it's in their little craft section. It's not for Christmas. It's a hand boiler. So the heat of your hand warms the water and the
I
vacuum.
wonder if it's in the science section.
It's right next to, it's right now. Let me put it back in my little bubble wrap case. It's right next to the spirit stick. No, this you can order online.
Yeah, we lost ours.
It's in the
But,
same aisle as the model cars and everything.
Yeah, so you know what I'm talking about. It's just,
Oh, yeah.
it's fun. It's my
One
new
little hint with
favorite
that.
thing. I'm bringing it to Williamsburg. I'm bringing it to Medina for show and tell.
I have a
Anyone
hint
else
with the
have
hand
something to
boiler.
And
Yes.
it was cold.
I'll put it in the
Hi.
chat box, Ellen.
I'm
Oh, go
sorry.
ahead.
Okay, I use the spirit stick this year differently than I ever have, and you probably all been doing this for years. But when I would measure the children's spirit, and of course they have lots of spirit, and then I would ask them if they thought their parent, their grown-up, whoever had spirit, and they'd say, oh yes, and so we test them, and no, they didn't have much spirit. So I shared with the kids that what they needed to do was they needed to hug that grown-up really, really hard and give them as much spirit as they could. And after they were done hugging, sure enough, that parent had the spirit. And the parents loved it. And I think the kids did too, but it was a lot of fun. I had never used it that way. I'd always just used it individually or in a circle, but I turned it into kids and parents hugging, and that was fun.
So far for me, the little board that I got through a lady in Ohio who makes them, I got it through Jackie Chamberlain. And one side says, Mrs. Claus put me on the nice list. And then there's a little space there, and it has a chalkboard background. So I use a piece of chalk and I'll write in the date. Or on the other side, there you go. Or the other side is Santa put me on the naughty or nice list. And Deanna's is customized for her to say, Mrs. Claus put me on the naughty and nice list. The adults have a great deal of fun saying, like I had two older brothers who insisted that I had to quickly change it and put naughty on it, so he was holding it next to his, and then he put it in front of his brother and this type of stuff. The adults like it better than the children, but the adults like it just because it helps date that year's picture. And sometimes as a child is feeling really shy, it's like, well, will you at least hold this sign saying that you're on the nice list? So they'll stand in front of Santa Claus holding their sign, and it gives a date. So the parents have it, it's like, oh, this was 2022 this year, and that's the year Mandy lost her teeth and whatever. But that one works for me so far. I have stopped making snow. I will wait a couple of years and then go back to making snow. I think you did it one too many times, and kids have done it in school for science and this type of thing. So I have stopped using the making snow at this point right now. Anyone else?
I would like to share something.
Please.
I purchased
Deborah.
this. Hi. I don't know if you can see it. I purchased this year at I found it at Menards. It's like a little,
Old fashioned.
yeah, old fashioned phone. I paid too much for it because then I found it somewhere else cheaper. But when you pick it up, I'll let you hear it. Congratulations. Good morning. It's 297,586. All right. So you're calling the elves, and I took it out and I like it, but I wish I could. Oh, sorry, it's very noisy. I wish there was, I don't know, more specific ways, because I had each little kid, they picked it up. Hello, Santa, or like they would try to talk to Santa, and I would say, oh, they're talking to you. I just wish I could make it more friendly, user friendly. Any suggestions on that? But it's really cute. But when you lift it up,
Yeah, it gives you random messages.
yeah,
Yeah, and I would like to have like push 1 for Santa, push 2 for the toy shop, something so that you can direct the messages under. I understand what you're saying, Deborah. I have that same issue with it.
yeah. And the little kids, they don't know anything about turning those buttons. Like us, we'd be like, oh, let me dial it. They don't have a clue about dialing it. You try to get them to dial it and they're not around that. They don't understand that. Now the parents like that, but yeah. So I just didn't know. I don't know if maybe if you're savvy enough and you disable the sound and you had like a little pocket thing and you can push it, that would be cool. I don't know if anybody would know how to do that and recommend that to me, but
I'm just curious. It's a random message, so you have no idea what message the elf is going to share. Is
right.
that okay?
I believe
So I'm wondering
10 or
if the other, okay, so I'm wondering if the other side of the conversation is saying, we're going to make a phone call to the elf and they've been watching you. I'm just thinking out loud. They're the ones who've been watching you, and they've been in touch with the elf on the shelf, or if they have one at home, and they have a very particular message just for you. Let's hear what they want to tell you. And then that can feed into whatever message they hear is the message that was meant for them.
That's clever. Yes, that would work. That would make that work.
Okay.
The elf on the shelf, I'm not too, it came around when my daughter was way beyond, so I didn't have it growing up with my child. And while you bring that up, one of the little girls at the one library I worked at, appeared at, she had her elf in a jar, and she said, oh, what about this or something? And I'm like, I drew a blank. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know why it was in a jar. I didn't know anything about it. And that just might be the way she was carrying it. I don't know. And so I need to really learn more about Elf on the Shelf and get into that mindset, because a couple of them did mention it. And I know I need to work that in when I talk to kids. Any advice on that?
We need Cliff's notes on Elf on the Shelf.
Deanna, do we have the spirit stick several places? I know, but it's usually in the science section of science.
I ordered this online because this one is because it's called Energy Stick, and it's electronics. It is called an Energy Stick. It's Steve Spangler. So if you go to Steve Spangler's, or you can order them on Amazon, they have 2 different sizes. This was the $20 size, and they have one about half this size and a little thinner for, I think, like $9.99. And it's all, you can see the metal side on here. You touch one side, nothing happens. You touch the other side, it lights up and makes cool noises. And so the whole thing about creating the Christmas magic and the Christmas spirit is that you have to create a complete circuit. And so if there's any break in it at all, it won't do that. So Steve Spangler or Amazon.
Yeah, and I covered that interior part with red lace.
Yes.
So that you don't see all that wiry stuff, but it leaves the end still to complete it.
Yes.
So
I like that idea.
I covered it.
I like that idea. So yes, Amazon has it called Energy Stick, and the name of the company, let me write that in as well. Energy Stick, definitely Steve Spangler's Energy Stick. It's all about children and experiments. He's got a bunch of stuff out there.
There are a couple of other things that we do. Roger has an app on his phone that he can control that puts you on the naughty or nice list. You put
Yes.
your finger on it, and then it goes.
The volume
And-
up or the volume down puts you
Yeah.
on the naughty or the nice. Yes.
That's not the one, but it's similar to that.
Yes.
And,
Nice.
we had a home visit with a lot of family members there, and everybody was joking how grandpa was on the naughty list, and he was playing into it too. I mean, he was the kind of character that you could do this. So we tested all the kids and they were all on the nice list, and then we tested grandpa, and sure enough, he was on the naughty list, and everybody just thought that was hilarious, just hilarious.
Love it.
Another thing that we made up, I have a book of pictures of us at home at the North Pole, feeding the reindeer at the North Pole, training the reindeer, working with the elves, things around the house. When he's eaten too many cookies and I have to take them away from him, and then when he falls asleep in his chair and I get to take his book and read my own story and stuff like that. Just picture, it's a picture book. And the kids love when I say, hey, would you like to see some pictures of us at home? And then we have one that's a baby reindeer with a red nose. So that's Rudolph's baby picture. And
So you sent it to like Shutterfly or someplace like that and had a little book made?
well,
Or you made just like a notebook?
you could do that. We had a friend make it up for us. She's
Okay.
a really good artist, and she put it together. Yeah.
We just have a 3-ring binder.
Oh, okay. So then you can change it, update it.
And then we had the pictures of then we got little kitties and puppies around at the North Pole. And of course, the kids just, we got a little, a picture of a little white puppy, and he's got a little red ribbon around him. And the little kids just absolutely love those little pictures of little puppies and kitties.
Because reindeer aren't the only animals we love. So anyway, that's a hit when we have home visits and stuff, when we have time for that.
Well, I gotta say, Jeffrey and Scott, you've kind of been a little on the quiet side.
Yes, very much.
I'd love to hear your pearls of wisdom.
Oh, I did have a thought when Janma was talking about what was that? The pink suit. You had a pink suit for a cancer
Christmas Goes
event. Is that
Pink.
right?
Yes. Christmas Goes Pink.
Right. And I just happened to think of all those Santas who send their suits off to the cleaners and disaster happens and the fur goes pink. What an opportunity to create an event, to a Santa with a red suit with pink fur centered toward raising funds for cancer or whatever.
Brilliant.
That's great.
Is October Breast Cancer Awareness Month?
It is.
So that would be, if, before your season gets really going full tilt, that would be a good thing to do in October.
Love it.
In case you
Thanks
guys
for-
didn't know, Janma is Ms. Claus, MS, Ms. Claus.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
And she posted some pictures. She's done some amazing things this season. So very impressive.
Thanks for the links, Lance. Thanks
What
for the
did you
link.
guys do this season to stay healthy? Or did some of you not manage to stay healthy? And what did you do? No comments. Did anybody?
I
get
stayed
sick?
healthy, barely, I think, but I stayed healthy, and I used the Immune C Plus powder. Had that every morning, and I've heard that it it may help. It may not. It may not be any better than daily vitamins, but whatever, it worked. Try to stay hydrated. Try to eat right.
Carol, go
I
ahead.
started every day with Airborne. And then there is, Young Living makes the most disgusting, horrible lozenges called thieves lozenges. They are the worst things, tasting things in the world. But I have found every time I start to get scratchy, they seem to take care of the scratchiness, and it doesn't seem to get to anything else. So again,
What is
it
it
may
called?
be in my head, but it works. Young Living, it's a essential oils company.
Right.
They're called
Thieves?
Thieves throat lozenges, and I will tell you, they are horrible tasting. But when my
Okay.
kids had COVID, they said they actually helped that as well for the sore throats. And drinking lots of grape juice, because we had a friend who had a doctorate in herbology, and grape juice supposedly cleanses the blood, and it's high in natural sugar, low in acid, and seems to help.
Okay, Jeffrey.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I stayed pretty healthy through the whole season, and I had a older and wiser Shannon than myself who told me if you do a multivitamin, C, vitamin D, and zinc, and I kind of followed that religiously, and it seemed to keep me healthy all season, no matter how many kids with runny noses and coughing and everything else that came up to visit. And then I just back up a little bit on the props. I have a leather-bound book that I found on Amazon with parchment paper, and when time was available, I'd ask the parents, well, are they really good? And we'd kind of go back and forth in that conversation. And then I would let the kids add their own name to Santa's good list book. And the kids thought that was the greatest thing since sliced bread. But that's what I had.
Anyone else?
I use Floridex. It is an old school remedy. It reminds me of castor oil when I was little. And I remember my grandmother giving us this, and it's a liquid vitamin, iron and vitamin supplement.
What's it
Not only
called?
did it's Floridex. Let me make
Okay.
sure. You can get it on Amazon. It really worked. And I also used the zinc and the lionzine and a lot of vitamin C. I was in and out of hospitals. I was in and out of burn centers, so I needed to stay healthy or I wasn't going to get in. And I didn't want to, I was traveling a lot too. So I was just very aware of my health and making sure that I'd stay on top of things. And I started this concoction, is what my kids called it. I started taking it in September, and that got me ready for the October running that I did.
So I do know that thieves oil from your essential oils is actually it's very, very old. The combination of items, and it was used for during the plague. What was that? The 1500s, the plague? Anyhow, the bubonic plague. And they would use it, put on their nose and hair and take when they would go into people's houses and rob them when the people were dying of the plague, or else if they had hauled out the dead, and they would go, but that's why it's called thieves oil. But anyhow, anyone else?
Yeah, I'm just thinking, Judy, before we go on to a couple of the other questions, I want to make sure that we've got time. I know that Nina and Ellen had some some insights on the experience types of
Yes.
activities. I think it's important that we talk about some of that, because there's more and more of those are cropping up. And I think being prepared of them, being a little bit proactive about experiences, because they're like a carrot dangling, because they seem really, really cool to be a part of. And they are in many ways, but I would love to hear Ellen and Nina and whoever else has been involved in the experiences, what to look for, what the highlight was, and everything in between.
What a cute picture, Mitzi. Just wanted to
Nina,
tell
if you're here, why don't you go?
Yeah, if Nina's in a salon right now, so I don't know if her head is still in the dryer.
She's probably getting rinsed right now. So go ahead, Ellen.
Over the last several years, I've done several of those types of things. I worked at Busch Gardens, Tampa Bay for several years. And then the last 2 years, I did Enchant Christmas, St. Petersburg. And let me talk about that one, because it's growing. And if it hasn't come to where you are, it probably will soon. It started with 3 locations. This year, I think there were 8 or 9. Their goal is 18 next year.
And they're advertising it on TV.
Yeah, yeah. I only can really speak about it from my perspective, although I think that it echoes some of the other Mrs. Clauses, at least in my location. Let me talk about some of the goods first, if I could. You don't have to market, it's done for you. You don't have to worry about costumes or cleaning. They do that for you. You don't have to worry about much of anything really, because it's corporate. They do it. You don't have to worry about what story to tell. They give you the story. They give you a space. They give you the activities. For us, anyway, because we were all very experienced Mrs. Clauses, they basically said to us, you know what you're doing, just do it, call us if you have a problem. So we had a lot of freedom to improvise and do what we wanted. And we ended up, at least where I am, and I know Nina's experience was different, bringing in performing elves. And so I would, do and there was an elf assigned to us. We required that as a condition of our accepting the position. So there was an elf assigned to our area with us. And so the 2 of us would do a story, and then provided by Enchant. And then the performing elves would come in and they would do a song or dancing or whatever. And it turned into a 20-minute, 25-minute show. We had a little stage and people would stop going down, the aisle and wait for us. We did a dance party. We did the reindeer Okey Pokey. We did the North Pole freeze dance. We did all sorts of things. And then the elves would dance. And it was fun. The actual performing was a lot of fun. If any of you are friends of mine on Facebook, you may have seen the picture that I posted of me with a couple of the elves. And it looked like I was having a ball, because I was. They don't pay well, but when they're paying you 8 hours a day for multiple days a week, it adds up.
Everything okay?
Nina, are you there? Talk about your
Yeah, I know.
experience. Yeah. I wanted you to go first, but you weren't there. So talk about your experience, and then I'll pick
I'm
up again.
out of the salon. Thank you. I'm out of the salon, and yes, I wanted to contribute so much. All right. So first of all, Ellen had done Enchant before, and so she really helped me with a lot of information, because any experience being an entertainment director. So they just said, you're a pro, go do what you want. And the big book only took about 4 minutes to go through. And so I got my own collection of books and brought them in a suitcase, a rolling suitcase, red one. every night and packed it out every night. I also did musical bells, and I printed and laminated jingle bells, and that was hugely successful. And let's see, what else did I do? I printed out 4-Up. Hold on just a second. You know, I think this is locked. Let's go this way. Sorry about that. My mom, I'm taking her to the restroom. Are you guys still with me? Hello?
Yes.
Yes, we're
Okay,
here.
so
Continue.
So the other thing I did is I printed 4-Up these templates of letters to Santa. And so it asked for, you know, what they wanted, what was their favorite book, what they'd like to give, and also that to draw a picture for Santa.
I think we're losing you a little bit, Nina. You're
So that was
breaking up.
another good, hold on a second.
Hey, Alan, how big were your groups?
Okay. Okay, so I'm back. So
So-
anyway, that's kind of my mix that I did. And I had a bunch of water soluble, you know, the skinny pencil markers, so they could pick which color they wanted to write their note. And then I had a great big postal letter to Santa stack. So I had that as a prop. And so it was, they put them all in there and whatnot. And once in a while I glance at what
Nina, let me ask you real quick, Nina. If someone were to consider doing an experience type of event, what would you say is the best part of doing an experience event and the one thing they should be aware of doing an experience event?
I should preface my answer by saying they'd never done enchant in San Jose before. So the people that were in charge didn't look after the talent. Okay. So you have to be aware of every different little thing, crowd control, people wanting to take your stuff. Okay. You know, when I went to the restroom, I would leave my books and my props and my eyeglasses, prescription eyeglasses there. And I come back and some ladies got them on. And, you know, you have to stay in character. And I'm like, excuse me, but those are Mrs. Claus's glasses. And she goes, oh, I thought these were for us to try on. I said, no, those are my prescription glasses. So then I had to take everything with me whenever I left my space. And then I got a big strap for my books so I could like cinch them all together because people were thinking it was like a library or something to take my books. And even the pens and the little paper notes, I had to like put those away every time I left my area. And I wasn't expecting all that. Okay. That, you know, the stuff that I brought, my own personal property, would be up for grabs by the public. You know, it was a different crowd than what I'm used to working in my own environment, is what I'm saying.
And that's a good observation. And that was one of the things that I found doing an experience for one of the resorts in the area. It's the Fairmont Princess, is that it's not, I mean, I'm glad that they gave you some flexibility to kind of create your own event. Most of the experiences, like to Ellen's point and to one that I did, is that it's their program, it's their show. We're plugged in. So if you want to consider doing an experience type of event, you're what they're looking for to do what they want you to do. Most of it is we had a script, because what they're looking for is consistency for the guest experience. They want consistency so that no matter who goes, when they go, what day they go, they get the same thing. That was really impressed upon all of us.
Yeah, and if
I would say, but if for my deal, is sometimes the group was older, so I had to go to my older book selection. Sometimes they were. I did one where the kid didn't speak English and he was like 3 years old, And he still got a lot out of the experience because of the voice intonation and the sound effects and the singing, it still worked out. So I had to plan for whatever ages were coming. And even these two ladies, there was a low railing that sort of corralled my area, but because it was a beautiful view of the Enchant Forest, which is all lit up, people would always come with their cocktails and their food and think it was a lounge. So I had to work with that challenge. But these two ladies, they were looking over the railing, and I didn't have any kids at that time. I said, come on in, embrace your inner child. And so I got them on the beanbag chairs, and I did a storybook for them. Turns out that their jobs they are preschool teachers at an international school. So they just loved it. So just be prepared for all different ages, whether, you have to do the pop-up books, or you have to do a longer book, or something sentimental, or something with a bouncy rhyme. So, that was what I prepared for. But as I said, I wasn't prepared for them being so wanting to take all the stuff like it was for free or steal it. I was not expecting that. And the musical bells worked out nicely, and I taught them all the notes, and we practiced singing the jingle bells before we actually did the actual song with the bells. And of course, I hammed it up with jokes and this and that. And if somebody was ringing the bell, I tested their ringing abilities before we started. But if somebody was like way off, I'd make some weird face and no.
That can be a lot of fun. Thanks for that, Nina. Ellen, was there anything more that you wanted to add for the experience?
I do. Yeah. Most corporates, let me change that. This was the third year of Enchant's existence. Every year has been chaos behind the scenes. I don't expect it to be any different next year, because every year they're growing and they're changing. The problem is that they don't have the skill set. They don't have a clue about who Mrs. Claus is. And this year we are one of the premier places because we were one of the first three. So every time there's a new set, a new costuming, a new story, we're one of the three places that gets it. And so this year, Enchant has partnered with Hallmark. And so Hallmark has a brand. And they wanted Mrs. Claus to be Goldie Hawn. And they made Mrs. Claus costumes to fit the anorexic ballerina dancer elves. And when the three Mrs. Clauses showed up, and we were not that, the costumes didn't fit us. They had us, here's what they wanted us to wear. Now, we did not do all this. This is what they wanted. Now I live in St. Petersburg, Florida. Tights, stretchy leggings, an under camisole knit, a long sleeved turtleneck cable sweater with a red, heavily lined, kind of a burgundy red, heavily lined quilted coat with fur lining, and high-heeled boots. Now, I'm sure that costume would have been glorious on some of those elves that weighed 80 pounds. It never fit me. I could wear the pants, I didn't wear the leggings. I could wear the sweater, I didn't wear the camisole. And I just wrapped a scarf around my neck. Again, if you saw the picture I posted on Facebook, you saw me as the Enchant Mrs. Claus. So one of the things I would say to you is, if you are interested in working for any corporation, make sure that you have some idea of going in. If it's in the interview process and do you have any questions for us? Please have questions for them about how controlling are they going to be. Nina and I had different experiences. We didn't read additional books. We had the performing elves, and we took pictures, and we danced, and we played. But our area was next to the bar. So that was noisy, and it was also next to a play area where they have all those big foam shapes. So we have kids in there screaming, we have the adults in the bar laughing, and we're in here being Mrs. Claus. You kind of need to be adaptable to do those sorts of things. You have to figure out how long your shifts are. When I worked at Busch Gardens, there were 2 of us on every shift, and we were on an hour and off an hour. And we did have some other duties like putting out cookies and things like that when we were off, but we switched every hour. Last year at Enchant, we had 2 4-hour shifts. So we did our 4 hours and then the next person came on. This year, there was 1 Mrs. Claus per 6 to 8 hour shift. We were always on. We were entitled to 2 10-minute breaks. And there was to be a break room, which was 1,000 steps away. And if you're old, like I am, with bad knees and feet, it takes you 10 minutes to get there. So we were fortunate. We made friends with the design manager, and he set us up a little sneaky place that we could just zip into and sit, and we didn't have to walk anywhere. But we didn't really get our 10-minute breaks. Because we are welcoming people and we are doing stories every hour on the hour, and we were dealing with the elves, and then they're coloring, and we've got the play, and we're taking pictures. And so just be aware of what you're getting into. Read your contract carefully, particularly if Enchant offers you a job. This year with Enchant, they hired us as independent contractors. They paid us as employees, but they treated us as salaried. And what I mean by that is our contract very clearly said, you are an independent contractor. Okay, I'm an independent contractor. Now, laws vary from state to state, but in Florida, an independent contractor means you provide all your own stuff, you do it when and how you want to do it. As long as a job gets done, you're done. That's an independent contractor. That's in Florida. That's the definition. That's not what we were. If we were to be on at 4:30, didn't matter what time we got there to get dressed, we got paid starting at 4:30. If the show ended at 9:30, that's when we were done being paid, no matter how long it took us to get undressed and out the door. We were paid for those hours. So from that, I'm saying it was like being salaried. The way they treated us like an employee was, be here, be there, do this, say that, and then they'd walk away when we did what we jolly well pleased. But if we saw corporate coming, we shifted gears because we knew what they wanted us to do. So read your contract, know what to expect, be willing to be on your feet for long periods of time. I will tell you, I am not going back next year. My body was not happy. And every night, about halfway through, my body said to me, you idiot. What the hell were you thinking? So I will be doing private, corporate, not-for-profit type of things next year. I will not be doing an experience like Enchant. My body is just not going to do it. You need to have stamina. Now, Santa, I'm not downing Santa, hang on, Nina. But he goes up, he sits in his chair for however many hours he sits in his chair. And he takes pictures. He was allowed 2 minutes per family. Boom, boom, boom. That's tough. I know it is, particularly if you're Santa, you want to talk to the kids. Mrs. Claus never sat.
Mm-hmm.
We were on our feet the entire shift, except if we could grab hi, you want your picture on the sofa? That's when we got to sit. So if you're going to do an experience, just kind of be aware what you're getting into, because you're not your own boss.
And the one thing, and Nina, I know that you wanted to add something as well, but just what Ellen said triggered something as well, that what we are able to do as a clause at a family visit, at a corporate visit, something like that, may be incredibly different from an experience event. Perfect example. Yes. It's my tendency, it's my instinct, if someone's going to put an infant in front of me, I'm going to hold that infant and hold, for the picture, especially if you've got, children of different heights, and I'll hold the baby. The supervisor comes up to me and says, I'm sorry, you cannot hold a baby. You cannot hug that child. If they come up to you and ask for a hug, that may be one thing, but they have liability issues that they have to think about. So it just tore me up every time someone would say, here, you want to
Here.
hold little, I wish I could, but I can't. So there's a different set of rules. And in my case at the Princess, from the middle of November to Christmas Eve, there were 2 Mrs. Clauses. And so I had other family events and things. So she worked, every single day. So you also find out how many other clauses will be there that you're going to be sharing that time with, because you're going to have to build that into your scheduling. So yeah, it is, as Ellen says, it's not as easy or as glamorous as it might be, portrayed. But I'll tell you, it is. I would go, for me, I would go back next year.
I would if my body would allow it.
Yeah,
If there's some kind of medical miracle, I'll go.
Yeah, I mean, I would go back because it's fun, it's intense. You learn a lot about time management, that's for sure. And, quick thinking and the flexibility, but it's not a family visit.
It's different. Very different.
Do we
Yeah.
have any Santas that did an experience?
Roger, did you
Just a
do
little
North
bit.
Pole experience before? Judy, did Roger ever do North Pole experience?
I've never done an experience of
Okay,
any kind.
okay.
We're thinking about it for next year. So I'm really interested in what roadblocks are on that.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk more as well, but yeah, and
Okay.
Ellen and Nina can share, and so can Glenn Rutherford. So
I think
yes,
that is
Mitzi.
Ellen. Hi, everybody. I'm in Philadelphia. This was a first tiptoe year for me since COVID. I started before COVID and whatever. I have an agent in Jersey. Some of you know Joe Harkins, who has about 15, he's going to be 90 in March, by the way, who has about 15 Santas in a few minutes. So he booked me into a photography studio called Silver Orchid Photography in rural Pennsylvania, who has sort of a quasi Christmas experience, but they are totally focused on the photography element of this Christmas experience. So the family goes on their website, and I actually booked 2 weekends in a row, all day Saturday, all day Sunday, 8-hour days. And I was, you could, for your family, you could do Christmas on the red truck picture session. You could do Christmas with Santa in his barn. You could do cookies with Mitzi Claus. And that picture that you saw was my set. I was in a barn, and she rents out this beautiful vintage old barn that this family owns, and they're turning it into an event venue. And they literally move all the furniture out. They have these, I'll post some pictures later, these beautiful sets that they design. There's a pink set, and then there's a classic living room set, and there's a vendor who has an outdoor hot chocolate and a craft beer thing. So when the family comes, they've paid a lot of money, a couple $100, and they can spend hours there, but they book the photography. So and everything is, they have elves, and they have everything on the computer, and it's all laid out. It was freezing cold, but it was absolutely beautiful. So it was a Santa experience for the families, but it wasn't a factory like Enchant or Hallmark or something like that, which I'm 72 next month. So I'm energetic, and I go to the gym. I've got a lot of stamina. I don't think I could do that Enchant session. It would kill my body. I've been an actor, so I've been on sets for 10 hours. I've done overnights at QVC. I know what my body can take in the recovery period. I did get sick one few days. So this was an experience that maybe other photographers in your area are trying to replicate. It's an investment on her part, But all year long, this is a photographer who does newborns, who does maternity, who does senior, who does weddings, who does all of that other stuff. But Christmas is their big moneymaker. It was beautifully put together. It almost, I felt like I was in a Hallmark set each time. But there was one day where I had back-to-back sessions in a freezing cold barn. It was that weekend in the Northeast that was like 20 degrees. And there was one big heater going off, and my toes and my fingers, literally the dough that you had to squeeze, the icing was almost getting frozen with the kids. But there were back-to-back sessions. Yes, there was an elf to help me put things together, and there was a photographer, but it was all focused on getting the pictures of me smiling with the kids. So the sessions were going back to back to back to back. I was never with a Santa in the official photo scenes. So, because the family never booked Santa and Mrs. Claus together on my days. It was me separate, but we had break times. So that was an incredible experience. I loved it. I don't think I would want to do the hotel thing now that I heard your report. And there's plenty of resorts in the Poconos and Atlantic City and all that other area that I might be getting interested in. And I have to take it with a grain of salt, because I don't think that you're right. I don't think they know how to treat talent, and they don't know what to do with us. Especially those of us that have personal experience as grandmothers or teachers or entertainers. And that would be tough. But that, you might want to look into the photography studios who actually set up their own experiences for their own ends. But the families who come, they paid a pretty penny. And this was in November, the last weekend, November, the first weekend, December. All those pictures were ready within 8 to 15 days. Every family had their albums.
Yeah.
And if you go on Silver Orchid Photography on their blog, you will see she posted some of the pictures and put them on her blog, and you could see how some of them came out. So it was fun. I hope I can get booked again. I am, on an aside, I'm going to something called Santa Gathering this Saturday. Has anybody ever been to it? You're going to be there? So it's sort of a free for all. There'll be 80 or 90 Santas and Mrs. Clauses. I'm really solo, but I'm looking to partner with some Santas who also are solo in the Philly, South Jersey, this area of Lancaster. So I'll be there with my business cards, and hopefully I'll hook up.
So
Word
is that
to the
the Santa
wise, I
Gathering
put something-
dinner?
It's being held at a
That's the
diner. You
luncheon.
pay your own way.
Okay, so
but
that's
the
the
whole
Santa
diner's
Gathering
being
from,
taken over.
It's a meeting to plan.
It's just
for
like a casual, let's get together
Yeah.
for the winter. They have their conference in Lancaster in September. I
September.
did not go to it.
yeah,
but
from Lancaster.
yeah. But
Yeah.
I need to connect with, I did put something on Facebook that I was looking to partner up with the son. I got some weird people that I had to block, just so you be careful what you put out
Be
there.
careful for sure. Well, Mitzi, I
So-
hope that we might see you in Williamsburg. We're going to
Probably not.
Williamsburg
I
or
don't think so.
Medina in May.
I don't know. We'll see how it goes. You know, I'm just,
We'll see.
I act
know,
and
we're
model during the
trying.
year, so I'd love to fill in and get more done.
Yes.
Certainly there's lots more, but this group has been very helpful. And Ellen, that's a really good warning for some of those events.
It's, the
Mitzi?
whole thing is go in with your eyes open.
Yes.
There's a lot to come out, go in with your eyes open. I'm just, Dan, Cynthia, I know we're coming to the end of our time, and I want to be respectful of that. There's a couple more, just kind of closing things, but just give everyone a chance to offer their insights, especially about how we're going to take what we learned and what we experienced this past season to make Christmas 2023 even better. And we can keep, we may stop the recording, but just like we always do, we'll just keep chatting for whoever wants to just stay on. But anyone who hasn't had a chance to speak yet, any nuggets or insights that you want to share with the rest of us about what you learned and what you're going to do going forward?
I have something.
Yes.
We basically had like 2 weekends at a hotel, both Saturdays and Sundays. And they were like realizing that what a treasure we had to offer. So what we're working on now is we're putting a package together with a PowerPoint presentation, and we're going to them and saying, these are all the things that we can do for you, but we have to get this booked now, because typically what happens is they wait until like September to book us. And we're like, that doesn't work, you know, because part of what they want us to do is they want us to bring, well, they want me to do face painting too, not as Mrs. Claus, but as myself for other events and stuff. And I'm like, you know, if you want us to bring other people in too, we've got to get this book now. And so they seem open to that. So that was a huge thing for us.
Yeah. Very cool, Cynthia. Dan, you've been kind of quiet. I'm going to pick on you. Is he still here? I think he's dropped off. I don't see Dan anymore. Okay. Oh, yes, Roger.
I just might add that I almost insist that Mrs. Claus Judy comes with me on all my visits. I just love working with her, and I just think it really works great, you know, to have two of them, and we just really sort of got it together now, both of us. And I would say there's only about, I'd say 90%, there's only about 2 or 3 that said, no, we just want Santa Claus. I said, okay, get somebody else. And I was able to just, you know, book enough. But I just, like I say now, I just bring Mrs. Claus with me, the whole thing, because we're a team. And I think the families just get a really, really lot better visit when they have both of us.
I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
I was just going to say, oh, go ahead, Ellen.
Well, I was just going to add a caveat to the experience job thing. I'm not telling you the negative things to dissuade you from going for it, because they can be a lot of fun. Just go in knowing it's going to be a different Claus experience than you are used to having. That's all.
Exactly.
It's fun.
Yes.
But
And remember your body.
remember your
it's
body.
their
Mine
party.
is almost 7. Yeah, my body's 77 years old. It was not happening.
It's their party.
You guys are going to leave? Okay. I was
Yes.
just going to say, my husband has a photographer that does kind of the experience, but it's, and we also do, like we did an entire 4-hour shift of, we went to Milwaukee and did a charity event for children with autism and special needs. And in that one, it was very casual. Of course, the photographers were their parents. And so in some cases, Bill had to sit on the floor or lay on the floor with them. And other times he was, well, Bill can still do push-ups. So I'm not, you know, at 78 years old, he's still doing well. He still does a couple push-ups, not a lot. But so he has, and I said, well, I can get on the floor now, but it's not pretty when I get up. But we were able to take our time. With the photographer, it's always, she wants to get the picture. And Bill kept trying to explain to her, he had a little boy that came in and they wanted this experience. But he had the attention of like 15 seconds. And then he was on to something else. Well, some of the cutest pictures he ended up getting was, oh, cute. She had a couple antique cars. And so Bill and the little boy had races with their cars on his table and stuff. But he kept saying to the photographer, let me get on the floor with him. He will pay attention and he will stay with me if you let me get on the floor with him. And she would not let it happen. And he really felt that that she could have gotten great pictures because she had a big rug and everything else on the floor and all these antique, you know, horses and everything. And he really wanted to play with some of the toys on the floor. And she was only, I think she had she had figured out her camera, the focus and everything else like this, and she didn't want to have to readjust. And Bill was very disappointed, and he felt that he did not give the family everything that they deserved because he was capable of giving them more, if that makes sense to you. Just the same as we were very lucky in a situation that a deaf child came in, and I was able to communicate with this child for well over 5 minutes. And if we had been in a more structured setting, I would never have been allowed that amount of time. And so there's good points and there's the other points. And Bill and I are always in for, and I know the heart of just about everybody in this room, and they're all in. You're all in for this because you want to give the child or the adult, because we have our adult, to still believe and want that moment of recapturing what they had before. And I have heard each one of you, and I know that each person in this room wants to give their best so that person goes away with a little bit of magic. And when you are denied that opportunity, it's very frustrating. And that's where it's nice to be able to at least vent here or whatever, or just talk about it. Because sometimes you walk away and think, I could have done so much better if I,
If only, if only.
Right. And Deanna, from what I know of your experience was much, much more structured than what Ellen and Nina had.
Oh, we were given a script. We could make it our own, but we had the flow. More than halfway through the season, one of the supervisors came through, followed the experience event with the other Mrs. Claus was on, and writing notes and texting the whole time. The feedback came back is, the experience is great, but the Mrs. Claus room is not magical. We need to change it. And it was like nothing that we did, but they realized, because I have to say, this was the first year they had included Mrs. Claus in the experience. And so they were feeling their way through it, but I will give them credit that they saw that it wasn't working for them. We were doing what we were doing. We thought it was great. The kids and the family thought it was great. But it wasn't on the par of what they were looking for. So they quickly changed, and they were happy. We were happy because it was much shorter and gave us actually a little bit more time to include a song, or have a different conversation. So
You were on your feet a lot, though. I
was on
remember
my feet the whole time. Yes,
I cannot imagine standing on cement, and most of you guys are standing on cement floors
standing on cement. The idea,
for
if the
hours and
timing
hours.
was
I
right,
cannot imagine. I mean, it's
Yeah.
just,
if the timing was right, I would have a group for 3 to 4 minutes and then move them on. And then every group would come through every 7 minutes. So I should have 2 to 3 minutes between groups where I could sit down and have a drink of water, except when it takes 2 to 3 minutes to bring in a group, because you had to reserve your time slot. And so depending on the number of reservations, they sold 20 tickets every 15 minutes, and each ticket could have up to 8 people. So in a room about maybe 20 by 10, you could get 50, 60 people in a room. Imagine trying to shuffle them in, have 2 minutes and shuffle them out. It's not going to happen. So it's, but everyone got their picture, and some of them were a little frustrated because the line was long, but that's everywhere on the busy weekend. December 10th was a nightmare for everybody.
Nina, Ellen, and Deanna, do you feel satisfied?
Yes.
With what?
Your Mrs. Claus portrayal at the Enchant.
I feel sort of schizophrenic about it.
Okay.
Because I really liked my interaction with the children. We had the time to do whatever we wanted, however long we wanted, and whatever format we wanted. The kids love Mrs. Claus. You guys know that. We just had that freedom. I loved that part. Backstage, whole different ball game. Whole different ball game. Like I said, they don't really know what they're doing. As someone else said, they don't value their talent. They don't treat you like talent. They treat you like an employee. And several people seriously considered, and as far as I know, may still be considering hiring an attorney for a class action suit because they did not live up to the contract, their side of the contract. Whether now they did with me, but I didn't get let go. And a lot depends on your production manager. Our production manager was a Disney guy. He was used to operating like Disney. He was used to operating on a Disney budget. And he had this wonderful vision, which would have been absolutely incredible, an experience. And he hired all the people to make that happen. And he went way over budget. And corporate came in and fired him and fired all the extra people. And they did by contract, they had to give those people 2 weeks notice because they had not violated, the people had not violated the contract. They did not give them 2 weeks notice. They had to give them a reason. They did not give them a reason. They just said, don't come back. It was only later that we found out it was budgetary. I don't expect that it's going to be a lot better soon because they're, in my humble opinion, IMHO, they're growing more quickly than they're set up to grow because now they've got the Hallmark money behind them. They just don't have the experience and the expertise.
Yeah.
The other Mrs. Clauses that were there are intending to go back. A lot of the elves are intending to go back. They hired through Hire Santa. Whether those folks will go back or not, I don't know. I hope a couple of them don't. The costume people will be going back. They've been the same. It's been the same costume crew. So, you know, it's if you do this for a job, I think if your livelihood, as many actors do, depends on a clause role or in part on a clause role, I think you have different priorities than those folks who do this like I do. My standard of living is not dependent on my Mrs. Claus role. I do this because it's fun for me. I love it. It's who I am in my heart. I don't have to put up with the bullshit. Some people do.
Yeah. It's not.
Judy
it's not
Maynard,
for
Deary
everybody.
Claus,
Yeah.
we haven't heard from you at all tonight.
Well, it's just been sitting here listening to all this. The experience is not something I think I would do. I don't stand that long with bad knees, but the one thing I did.
I found that out.
But as far as earlier, the conversation you were talking about, the parents in one room and the kids in the other, in our contract, we tell them that we are not babysitters.
Yes.
Okay. We are there for you as a family to celebrate Christmas. So, you know, because we do a lot of gifts, things where the parents are interacting. Because we do like the House of Santa Belt, and that's all the adults doing all that. So it gives the kids a chance to watch and laugh at them. But that we learned that the hard way about not being babysitters, because they get those kids hyped up on candy and whatever, and then they turn them loose on you. It's like, no.
Yeah.
So, but other than that, I think we had a really good year, busy, but still, you know, the usual flaws, you know, there's something last minute booking and, oh, I forgot to pay you, you know, so we're trying to collect on them, but same old, same old.
So we had some other subjects that we were going to cover and a list of things of reminders to do. I think we'll just put that, Deanna, can we just put that list?
Yeah,
Yeah,
we'll post
on
it
the Facebook page.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
do you want to stop recording now and then those who want to stay and chat some more can, or what do you
Absolutely.
think?
Yes, I think that that would be a good thing. And we close with a, don't hang up yet, don't leave yet. But yeah, we close with just a hearty thank you. I mean, it's a great way to wrap up this season. And if we don't look back, we never improve, we never get feedback. The whole point of this is, how do we take what we did last year and make this coming year even better? And we do that not just with our own experiences, but hearing from everybody else, which is why I love the format of these webinars where we don't push the information. We don't tell you what your season should have been. You tell us what it was, and you tell each other what it was, and it kind of triggers and we learn from each other. So on that note, I will stop recording and we'll keep chatting, and we say thank you very much.